Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the next session of the Thailand InsurTech Fair 2021. I'm Ronak, your moderator for the next topic. That's Insure Everything with Embedded Insurance. As you know, embedded insurance is one of those industry areas that's considered to be a $1 trillion opportunity going forward. And to discuss it today, I have got a great lineup of speakers, starting with Cindy, who is the co-founder and CEO of one of the biggest insurtechs in Southeast Asia called Sunday. She would be joined with Brandon, Chief Executive Officer of Stone Step. They have been in ASEAN since 2015, one of the pioneers of embedded insurance, and Dr. Krishna, General Manager of Thai Cloud, eBauTech. Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you for this panel. And without further ado, let's just get started. Yep. So as I mentioned, embedded insurance is one of the most innovative distribution models that we have seen in the insurance industry. And it is considered to be one of those, I would say, industry verticals that is slated to grow tremendously going forward. I would like to know from Brandon, since you have been in it for quite some time, what exactly is embedded insurance for the benefit of our audience, and how have you seen it being implemented in the past, and how do you see it evolving as we move forward?
Sure. So embedded insurance is selling insurance when the customer buys something else. Very simply, upsell, cross-sell, freemium models typically through places where customers are already shopping. And not so much through a traditional agent or broker or somebody who shows up with a necktie and sits down and has coffee with you. It's a quick sale, typically small ticket, pay-as-you-go types of policies. Where it's been, it's not entirely new. I think the marketplace is very new, but I started with this business at AIG and then Zurich Insurance in Latin America already back in the 1990s with selling through retailers. First, we started with products like extended warranty on appliances and microwaves and electronics and whatnot. And our colleagues kind of ignored us, thinking this isn't such an important thing to do. And then scroll forward maybe 5 years later when we were producing the largest amount of premiums of any business AIG had in the region, reaching something like 20 million new customers per year, and not only doing extended warranties, but dental and home and life and adding all of the different products. And we really got their attention. And then when we were producing half of all of the insurance profit for consumer lines internationally outside of the US, we really had their attention. And we did the same at Zurich. So the basis of the model has been there. What I think is really exciting now is the changed marketplace with technology and digitization. It creates much, much greater, vast accessibility to customers.
Sounds good. That was really helpful. Cindy, any viewpoints from you with respect to how are you seeing it evolve, let's say, especially in Thailand? I mean, as Brandon mentioned, when it started, it was all about extended warranty, electronic insurance and all. Are you seeing a change in the product portfolio that's being opened up for embedded insurance in Thailand, or let's say in ASEAN?
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, the point about insurance and why it's such an interesting market is that risk is abstract. The risk landscape changes. It's not constant. So I think, even but more so post-pandemic, like people are a little bit more aware now about health insurance. I mean, in markets like Thailand or Indonesia as well, or markets in ASEAN, I mean, the penetration rates for health is still very low, right? So you do see in terms of a few lines of business where there is now an increasing awareness and demand beyond just electronics. And maybe travel insurance, like for example, that's the earliest idea as well. So I do. Personally, specifically in Thailand, for example, we've had the pleasure also working, for example, with a few partners. One example is with a telco. They really believe that actually they need to invest in customer lifetime value. Really trying to create that ecosystem and create that customer stickiness and giving them a better service and not just price points all the time. So that was where they started, considering, okay, how do I, provide health insurance, like micro coverages with the data plan as well, and it's on subscription basis, So yeah, I think definitely there is potential, and it's already happening now. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Very, very informative. So, Dr. Krishna, since Cindy touched upon the aspect of how a telco partner, and in that ways, she focused a bit on the B2B2C aspect of embedded insurance. There are various stakeholders that can benefit if it is done the right way. You've got the insurance partner, you've got a partner that can provide the requisite network effect, like a telco, like an e-commerce partner, and then finally the consumer. eBowTech works quite extensively with insurance companies, right? How do you think embedded insurance actually benefits insurance companies?
Yeah, actually, I believe that the digital technology, and especially during the COVID, changed the landscape, especially the consumer behavior. So everybody go more digital, right? For insurance, they need to find some way to meet customer. It's quite difficult to meet face to face right now. What they have to do is they have to find some new S-curve to deliver the insurance product. And, according to the study, there are emerging ecosystem that, contextual around, for example, like health ecosystem, travel ecosystem, e-commerce ecosystem. And I think that is the target that insurance will go after. And as an eBowTech, we have platform, we have API technology, and we have a container technology to help enable legacy system of insurance to be able to embed it and to be able to evolve according to dynamic of the new ecosystem that emerged.
Interesting. Brandon, I mean, as Dr. Krishna mentioned, that the pandemic induced stay-at-home sort of becoming the normal, and people transacting a lot online really enabled, in a way, a vast majority of people to move from offline to online for insurance consumption as well, which has traditionally been a very offline-centric business in this part of the world. If I'm not wrong, 98% of the insurance policies that are sold are offline still. From that aspect, do you think for an insurance company, does it also bring financial benefits if they were to move their business online, and especially in an embedded insurance perspective?
So let's see. There certain needs are going to continue to be met by agents and brokers in order to provide for more complex risks. I mean, the embedded is not going to replace commercial insurance, and it's not going to replace the relationships that have existed for ages and that are important, so that people who have got more complex needs can have those needs tailored to by an insurer. But that's a very small fraction of the accessible market. I think to put some numbers around the movement that that you said. In 2015, this is according to studies done by Google, Temasek, Facebook with Bain Consulting. Since 2015, the number of accessible customers has grown from 20% to 70% due to adoption of online payments. And that's a movement not from a credit card, it's a movement from cash. And insurance just wasn't practical to do in cash transactions. It's especially not small ticket insurance. So I think it's inevitable that insurers add embedded insurance and compete in that market, or decide to really only focus on the traditional segments, on commercial and sort of high net worth or mass affluent type customers. But in order to reach the, say, 80% or 70 to 90%, whatever you want to say, of the population, embedded is inevitable. And we see also the digital channels and retailers and utility companies and everyone find that their customers demand a better solution for risk. Like Cindy said, and Krishna also, it's that COVID has of course heightened concern about health and mortality, but it's put a financial strain on everyone. So there's the demand is sky high. We see it. I'm sure all of us on this panel see it. And looking at prior epidemics in other markets, SARS, MERS, swine flu, we can expect insurance sales to be about 50% above former growth rates for years. So yeah, it's a very heady time for those of us who are in embedded insurance.
I think that's a interesting segue into the next segment, right? And I'm glad, Brendan, you touched upon it as to how even with agents and brokers around, we need to come up with different distribution channels so as to make insurance more, I would say, accessible and more universal. In a recent Swiss Re report, it spoke about that the socio-economic benefit that in order to it to be provided and what level of insurance premium were being bought across the market, the insurance gap came out to be a 1.2 trillion US dollars. Overall insurance industry, as you know, is around the 5 trillion mark. So, I mean, that's a massive gap. So Cindy, with this in mind, and given the fact that, how do you see embedded insurance, and given that you are a growth stage company, how do you see you can turbocharge this universalization of insurance using embedded insurance as a distribution model?
Yeah, I think that's a very big question because I think we need to look at the insurance value chain here. And what I mean by that is everything from product design to how you actually underwrite, issue a policy, how do you actually pay the claims after that. So it's end to end. I think the first one is for we are the supply for insurers, we are the providers. So we have to be concerned about what is the data available, how do we underwrite it, and what is the product design. So I think one way that Sunday aims to actually sort of contribute to the industry is change the way that underwriting is being done. For example, like for Sunday, we manage complex risk. So more than 80% of our portfolio is in health insurance. And we also underwrite things like SME. So that's not immediately on embedded, but we also do micro insurance on a subscription model. So that is also another type of product design. But the whole point is that we're trying to build a machine learning pricing engine that can ingest, process static and non-static data so that the risk prediction, when you have to deal with embedded insurance where you're trying to serve a very large partner who can suddenly push more than millions of customers in every single minute or second, how do you then manage your risk portfolio as well, right? So how do you do that pricing as well? And you can't have human underwriters doing that all the time. And you can't also, when you're dealing with complex risks, depending on how you design your products, you can easily do a fixed plan and just do an integration API to your partner and try to standardize that API if you need to go regional or global. But yeah, coming back, I think primarily in my opinion would be how you cut the product, how you design and price the product. You can do a low effort where you can have a fixed plan, but if let's say you want to design a super cool product in the future where it's also, your price points are non-static, where it fluctuates also according to your risk profile, then that's also another point. So yeah, I think we're still early stages, but pushing that growth, we're really trying to deploy our solution, testing it against our own products, and seeing how the accuracy also develops over time. So I have to say that being in the environment now where there's black swan events and the risk landscapes are changing so dramatically, there's just so much uncertainty. It's actually quite interesting for us. So that's one way that we're really trying to contribute. The other way is also we have our own full stack software engineers as well. So we're also trying to work with more partners, not just telcos, other conglomerates as well, and see how we can find a way to scale up our API. I'm sure Dr. Chris and I has also a very deep expertise in this area as well. So that's one thing that we're trying to do. And I think this is quite important because it touches on policy data exchange, and in markets like Thailand and Indonesia where there is still a premium tariff. So yeah, so I think this is quite concerning as well. I mean, for that we need to be in compliance too. So yeah, definitely solutions like from EBA would be super helpful as well. Yeah.
Sounds good. Dr. Krishna, Cindy mentioned about underwriting. Given the monumental amount of work eBaoTech has done with insurance companies across the region, when it comes to embedded insurance, there is a certain element of real-time processing of data. And as we know, traditional insurers, their risk assessment and management models, their overall underwriting models are largely offline. In your area of work, have you seen insurance companies taking on this idea of providing real-time risk assessment, underwriting, and pricing as a service?
Yes, let me give example of our partnership, but not in the region, it's in Europe. We have partnered with Moonshot Insurance, and what Moonshot Insurance does was to create a product that very contextualized. If you go to Moonshot Insurance website, you can see that there are several solutions according to the ecosystem, like health insurance, travel insurance, and in that insurance we help Moonshot build. Actually, it's called open innovation, where starting from the product design, we Moonshot Insurance open for people from outside company to help design the product, to help design exactly what kind of product that people in the travel industry will use, and then we use our middle office to link all the steps along the travel customer journey flow or the e-commerce customer journey flow. When they come to the underwriting, right? We have the API to automatically connect to back office and to do the almost real-time underwriting. You know, that kind of technology that we are going to develop, and we are developing right now. And the other example is in China. There are a lot of movement in China, especially we partner with like health screening company, and also we partner with WeChat, so that we combine to partner and to deliver almost real-time product offering and underwriting through our platform. But in Thailand, I think we are still in developing process, and the insurance company that we are working with right now, they are about the migration from the legacy system to modernize the architecture, modernize the system, so that they can be able to respond quick to the new dynamic market dynamic. And one thing that I see here in Thailand is because embedded insurance, we have to be in the ecosystem of the other industry, right? The dynamic in like e-commerce industry is so quick compared to what insurance company can do. That gap create a challenge when we try to introduce embedded insurance dynamically into Thailand market. We are trying to develop that at the moment.
Interesting. So we've spoken about the customer. We've spoken about the insurer. And this is a question for the panel. Feel free to pick it up. What in this is it for the distribution partner? It is a B2B2C model at the end of the day. Cindy gave an example of how they work with the telco, and Dr. Krishna spoke about e-commerce partners. Now, these are platforms that can have massive network effects, right? Data or marketplace related network effects. How strategically how much of a strategic priority do you think is embedded insurance for these kind of partners?
Can I go back to the very early days of embedded insurance and give an example there? So in the United States, you had two major electronics retailers, Best Buy and Circuit City. And Best Buy exists today because they figured out how to upsell, cross-sell service products that are backed by insurance. And Circuit City did not. And I think it's a margin enhancer for distribution channel. It's also one that is sticky and that helps solve retention. So you have customer activation, you have customer retention, you have margin enhancement, are three very big priorities for any business, particularly one that is reaching the mass market. And I think those are the big three that distributors can expect out of insurance.
Cindy, how do you see, let's say in the Thailand context, how do you see platform partners taking this opportunity? Is it more of a tactical play, or is it more of a strategic play, as Brandon mentioned in the Best Buy Circuit City example?
I think it's very much subjective to every company's business model. We're starting to see so many, like vanilla. We used to think the banking sector, all they want to do is just bank, right? And we used to see telcos, all we want to see them do is just, fix up their towers and then earn that cash flow from their prepaid, postpaid plans. But you're starting to see some of them divesting banking sector and going into different ecosystems, lending, P2P, healthcare, automotive. I think it's very subjective, but I think the potential is there. Personally, any company can turn their platform into a marketing platform if they have a very large customer base. It's if you find the right product design, and if, let's say, your business model is not just to provide the best competitive price out there in the market, no matter what your product is, but also to provide the best service, the best customer offerings, then insurance is one of the best products to consider, because it's just so abstract. You can cover any ecosystem. We can be in any ecosystem, whether you talk about healthcare, electronics, automotive, travel, you name it, right? Lending, credit, risk. So I think there is a lot of opportunity to create and personalize the right product for your particular customer segment. And as a marketing partner, you can earn that margin and increase your average margin per user as well. So yeah, I think it is, for me, for me, I always pitch to my partners that is strategic, but also depends on what they're looking for. It could also be a low-hanging fruit for them right now, but I mean, for embedded insurance, it takes a while to get it up and running. It's not like, you can get it up and running in 1 month, right? Because sometimes if, for example, like what Dr. Krishna says, that if you want to do contextual marketing, then you need to put in a lot of investment. set up a squad, do product design workshops, get your data farm ready, run a lot of product workshops to discuss what is the use case. So I think it has to be strategic. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we move to the next segment, and whenever we talk about insurance, there are challenges galore, right? For an industry that's so highly regulated. And I know whenever we speak about insurance and challenge, the first challenging aspect is always the regulatory side of things. Even before we go there, Dr. Krishna mentioned about e-commerce, the generational gap that is there between an e-commerce company and an insurance company. Brandon, over the course of years, have you seen this generational gap increasing, or even if it's being trimmed down, it's not trimming at a very fast pace between insurer and, let's say, a digital partner that could be used for better distribution of insurance?
I don't know that I'd term it as a generational gap so much as the way the insurance industry is developed has relied on external distribution through agents and brokers, and building in-house skills to both design products, which are financial products, and to then operationalize them. That's the gap. There's a whole set of skills and abilities that are slowly being adopted by insurers. We actually build embedded insurance businesses for insurers, insurance intermediaries, and mass market channels. So build it on our platform, which is slightly different than a lot of models that we see out there, because ultimately that's where we see this business going. Technology is table ante. Frankly, I mean, it's vital. The business does not work without technology. But some of the things that Cindy and also Dr. Krishna were saying about product design, about fast A/B testing, about using your data and modeling things correctly, I mean, those are definitely highly desired by insurers, but haven't really been all of the skills that insurers have needed to succeed to get to today, right? So it's a changed requirement.
Interesting. Dr. Krishna, in your work with insurance companies, and as insurance companies move towards more digitization of the entire value chain, but let's say primarily the distribution side of things, of this embedded insurance is a very critical part. Given the fact that on one side, you may be working with, let's say, an e-commerce player or an e-wallet, and on the other side, you may be working with an insurer having, as you mentioned, legacy technology at play. How big of a challenge is it to bring the two worlds together so as to have a seamless consumer experience?
I think the big challenge is in how they view the strategy, especially in the insurance. As I see, insurance company can see insurance value chain as a traditional strategy, like a straight line. But when you go to ecosystem, the way you see strategy have to change to be ecosystem based. Whether you willing to partner with other, entity in the ecosystem. This is the key challenge. When I give example to the not insurance to bank in Thailand. There are two types of bank in Thailand. Leading bank, they are moving toward ecosystem bank. They are willing to embed themselves into other ecosystem to be a member of other universe. But for some bank, they still want to be a center of universe. I think this mindset is the key challenge when they want to implement the dream. Embedded insurance is the dream, but the way they implement is depend on their mindset. For example, like I saw some practice in Thailand for insurance, for embedded insurance, right? I give example for the travel insurance. For the airline, for the airline ticket, you can, easily embed it small portion of the insurance into the airline ticket, or even the luggage that they top up from the ticket. For the traditional insurance, what they do is to design mass like general package and just only embedded into that that ticket. When I ask about whether do you think about the API to do a dynamic pricing, and they say, oh, let's do low hanging fruit first. That kind of analog way to embed it is still dominate in Thailand. So I think that is the key challenge to develop.
I hear you, Dr. Krishna. I definitely very interesting insights. Very interesting insights. So as you mentioned, embedded insurance is a dream. Something that can turn this dream into a nightmare is data privacy and protection, right? And as we know, data privacy and protection is increasingly becoming mainstream with every passing day, the way we go about doing the business. Especially in this kind of a setup where you have multiple stakeholders. I mean, you will have a commercial partner or a distribution partner, then you may have a tech partner, and then you have an insurance company. So the data is flowing across three different, I would say, entities. How critical is it? How critical does this whole element become? Does it become all the more important that, let's say, an insure tech in between has to be even more cautious? Or have you seen some standardized templates with respect to data privacy and protection within the region? Or if you have examples across the world, that would be helpful for the audience.
For eBow, because we is a technology provider, so what we do is we ensure that our platform is secure. We use multi-tenancy framework to manage the user authority and access to the platform, and we ensure that all the data transfer are encrypted. So we ensure that all the technology part is already taken care of. However, there are some more factor that beyond our control, like how partner work with each other, and they may raise something about ethic, maybe not wrong, but ethical, whether the embedded insurance is the product that customer really want, or just embedded and sell, that kind of thing that we need to, a lot more discussion have to be going on in the industry.
Brandon, in your view, how important is the data privacy and protection part when a B2B2C strategy is being implemented, especially in the embedded insurance segment?
Yeah, so we're based out of Switzerland, which has a long history of sort of data privacy and being very clear about those things. And it's not only the end consumer's privacy, but also the different businesses that we work with, each of which aims to succeed on its own, right? And does not want to have leakage of their proprietary methods and models going across boundaries. So those are aspects to be very cautious about. For example, we're working with two e-tailers in an ASEAN market, one of which is now currently selling 300,000 policies per month, product protection type policies. The other is planning to launch shortly and to sell 300,000 policies per day, which is wonderful. But each of them has their own specific requirements, and we treat each one of them separately and ring fence not only the end consumer's information, but as Dr. Krishna was saying, with the multi-tenant setup, ring fence the underlying data as well.
The other challenge, and I think it completely depends on how one sees the industry, is on the regulation side of things. As we all know, insurance has been around for more than 300 years, and over a vast majority of its, I would say, stay, it has been a regulated industry. For an innovative model like embedded insurance, where does regulation come in, and is it keeping pace with the changes required? Cindy, probably, do you want to go ahead on that?
Sure. I think there has to be a collaborative position between the regulators and the players in the market. And I mean, in fact, we're happy to see that OIC, the Thai regulator, is hosting this event. That means they are definitely listening. They are definitely, regulators in this region are definitely aware that is coming and it is changing, and they're also trying to learn how to balance between what's the right regulation for consumer protection but also to ensure that the industry is stable. In addition to data protection as well. So I think for this region, because my experience has primarily been in Thailand and Indonesia markets such as those. The first one is definitely underwriting strength, and how do you really balance that between asset and liability? Because once you go into embedded insurance, your risk changes quite a lot. And it could spike, it could go down. So I think the first one is wanting to really see how regulators would sort of work with more providers to learn how to slowly liberalize the premium tariff over time. I mean, you're starting to see markets like Malaysia trying.
Yep.
And I think that has to happen at some point in time. But I think for now, there's still quite a lot of room that a provider can manage within the tariff already. So it also depends on how you cut your product. So I think that's the first thing that I would look at. The second one is, again, the user journey, right? The technical journey. We can't deny things like data protection, because users in Thailand are also very aware now of their rights, very aware of requiring their consent. What are you using my data for? So providers also needs to be, we keep preaching data, but actually for providers, we need to be aware specificity of the purpose of that you're trying to, gather, process, and store and share that data as well. Is it reasonable? Does it really help the customer? I think those 2-3 areas is super important. And also because at the end of the day, for insurance, you're selling a policy. It's literally like in those days, a piece of paper, right? Or even now, but now it's a confirmation that you are covered. Then those kind of data is also very sensitive and private to you. So how do you share it in an encrypted manner? Is also super important. So I think those would be the areas that we would be eager to work more closely with the regulators to see how we can open it up and still, be aware that these are things that we need to be concerned about. Yeah.
Thank you. This is very helpful. I think, as you rightly mentioned, OIC has been one of the regulators that has spearheaded this digital innovation aspect, and really there's a lot of work that's happening in a collaborative fashion with new age companies like us to make insurance more accessible to the consumers of today, who, as you rightly mentioned, are more thoughtful about data privacy, are more thoughtful about their rights and all. So this was really helpful. Dr. Krishna, I mean, you would have I would say the product manufacturer, who's the insurer here, are the first who actually tend to get impacted whenever there's a regulatory change. And if an insurer is going through the journey of technological innovation or enhancement, these compliance or regulatory related change could have massive spillover effects. In your experience, in Thailand or across the region, have you seen such kind of upheavals happening, that because now a lot of business seems to be moving in the digital space, and and regulators are trying to keep up with it, are insurance companies also bringing about a change from a technology standpoint?
Let me use one case of the sandbox.
Yeah.
From in terms of the technology perspective, I think sandbox need to balance between the regulation and the innovation. And I see that, in Singapore, for example, MAS has very efficient sandbox, easily to get in, and can allow insurer to develop and pass the sandbox very quick. I think this is the area that maybe OIC can enhance the sandbox approach. I think when the insurer, they are trying to modernize their technology, and at the same time OIC modernize the sandbox approach. And I think when the two meet, the product manufacturer can launch the product quite quick. In that way, we can promote the innovation in insurance.
Interesting. I think this was great. So I think the next segment is more around opportunities in the future, right? So I think all of you have been championing the embedded insurance segment for a number of years. Which industries, as per you, Brandon, are now ripe for disruption when it comes to embedded insurance, where you are not seeing embedded insurance pass that critical mass?
So there's still plenty of room in the digital economy. Mobile has been around forever, and it's all of the businesses that mobile has enabled that are the first opportunity. And then I think it's interesting what Cindy said about getting into SMEs. We have also done that. Each of these, let's say it's an e-wallet, they are connected to thousands, if not tens of thousands of small merchants that are also doing cash in, cash out for the wallet. And those SMEs also have great needs that aren't really being that well served. As more sort of brick and mortar type of outfits also digitize. So we've worked with utility companies and traditional retailers. They upgrade their cash register system, and suddenly you're able to offer new products and do new insurance upsell and cross sell. So those, I think, would be the distributions. The area that we keep a very close eye on, we're actually based out of what's called Crypto Valley in Zug, is crypto and blockchain and what happens next, because the transparency that is available through those technologies is really remarkable, especially for an ecosystem type play where all the actors need to have the same information at the same time. Handling data protection in that, because blockchain never forgets,
Yep.
is one of the items. There are certainly workarounds for it, but I'm quite interested and excited about that, and also stablecoin in terms of holding assets over a longer term in economies that might not have the most stable currency. So there are sort of interesting new options on all sides.
Thank you. One final question. If I were to give you a paintbrush and ask you to paint a picture of how the insurance industry would look like if embedded insurance was to become the primary distribution channel, how would it look like? And the question is open for any of the panelists who would want to take this.
For me, would be, whenever I'm surfing the web, because, I'm about to have my first child and I really want to upsize my health insurance, then suddenly, someone pings me and recommends me something, or let's say if I'm buying a new home, and suddenly, someone's also recommending me home insurance at the same time. So I'm really imagining those kind of stuff, quite contextual, like what Dr. Chris and I says is super important. I think that's what's gonna really change insurance and the way customers perceive insurance. Yeah.
Yeah, one of our board directors, if I could jump in, one of our board directors used to say, or does say, if it moves, it needs insurance, and if it doesn't move, it also needs insurance. And that's absolutely true. And the problem is that it's such an intangible product that bringing that tangibility by offering it at the right moment to the customer when they need it, like Cindy just mentioned, that's going to change customers' perception of the industry. And I think that's what we'll see. And we will see it within the next 5 years. I think it is happening that fast.
Yeah,
Thank you,
for me-
everyone. So yeah, Dr. Krishna,
Okay.
please go ahead.
Okay, I just add one thing. It
Sure.
to be like in my day-to-day life. For example, like in the morning when I go brush my teeth, insurance can be embedded in that toothbrush, right? If I brush correctly, you know, they have some technology that transmit how I move my hand, and that can feed into the underwriting and come back. You know, that kind of thing. You know, all activity in our day can be insured.
Interesting. I really like that idea. And thanks, everyone. I think you have been an awesome panel, I have to say. And I'm sure the audience will go back with a bag full of knowledge about embedded insurance. We covered a whole host of subjects, primarily focused on how do the customer benefits from embedded insurance, how does it lead to universalization of insurance, how is it helpful for insurance companies to come of age and serve a completely new set of customer base that's more digital, that's more mobile, and while doing all of it, being mindful of the data privacy and the data regulation part of the business, while working collaboratively with regulators in every market. Thanks again. This was really informative, and have a good weekend. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.